Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a whole lot different than the last ones. We're road tripping right now. It's pretty rare that we get away from the farm, but we're getting away, and just the two of us, no kids. So the kids are spending overnight with my dad in Winnipeg, and we are headed up to Yellowhead, Manitoba, to visit 3 dairy farming friends. 3 farms, all just like ours, all new entrant farms. So you're probably wondering, what is a new entrant? I don't think I've really explained on the channel how we got our start in dairy farming. So as we drive along here, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how we started Rich Lane Farms and how that transitioned from how it started to what it is today. And yeah, so let's follow along, and we'll try and show you some scenery. Where we are now, we're going to be about 2.5 hours from home, and already I can tell you it's dry. It is dry. Boy, there's some hard places up here, but anyways, let's talk about Rich Lane Farms. So when Krista and I met, we're going to have our 15th wedding anniversary. Yeah, I got that right. 15th wedding anniversary coming up in a month and a bit here. But we've been together now for 19 years, almost 20 years. So Krista and I grew up around where we are right now. We're just west of Portage la Prairie, and Krista had a beef herd. Her family was into beef, and the herd got sold, but what remained were the remnants of her and her siblings' 4-H calves in this little beef herd. So when we met and Krista decided to move out to the southeast, to the best part of the world, to be with me, she brought her beef cows along. So that's how Rich Lane Farm started. At first, we tossed around ideas about a farm name, and we live very close to the Sandylands Provincial Forest, so we thought Sandy Lane Farms. I didn't like the ring of Rich Lane Farms, just the rich part, implying that we're a bunch of rich farmers, because we definitely ain't. But then we sat back and thought about it. Well, no, it's the first part of my name. It's part of Krista Lane's name. It makes sense. People seem to like it, so Rich Lane Farms was born. So we started farming on a rented yard. I worked for a large dairy farm who had a second yard, and the house we lived in, and I got to rent some corral space and some pasture there, and that's how we started. We started buying a couple more cows, and so I remember going to the bank to borrow money to buy my first 12 cows, and that was a very, very big deal. And we borrowed a little bit of money. We bought a squeeze chute and a couple of round bale feeders and a couple of grain troughs, and yeah, that's how we got our start.
Before we had that squeeze chute, it was pretty ranchy.
Yeah, the first couple of years we had just a wooden plank alley with no head gate, just a wooden gate. They had to stop them, and I remember vaccinating the very first time, and I thought, man, if this is what beef farming is like,
this is terrible.
Ooh, I'm in for a rodeo here. Then we upgraded, bought a squeeze chute, set up a little handling system at that yard, and then but we quickly outgrew that, and we needed more pasture land. So then we started looking around for land, and a piece of land came available, and we bought that quarter, and then we bought a couple more cows. And when we bought that quarter of land, I think we got up to about 50 head of cattle. Yep. And did that for 2 years, living at the rented farm. But we always kind of wanted to get closer to land, and we wanted a place of our own. And an acquaintance of ours, who I'd known for many, many years, he was actually a contractor. He was building a dairy barn at this farm I worked at. And we talked one day on his lunch break, and he mentioned he had some pasture for rent. So I said, oh, I could be interested in some more pasture. So we went down to visit him and saw the for sale sign in his driveway. And I'm like, oh, wow. Pulled into the yard, and we're like, wow, we really like this place. This is a really cool place. And we sat down with him and kind of discussed, okay, what he had, what he wanted. Okay, phoned the bank the next day, and boom, it was done. It was pre-approved right there on the phone, and we could buy the place. So the house was there, the shop was there, the hay shed was there, some pens, but not much. A rickety,
tiny little barn.
Yeah, a rickety old barn, and
slapped together.
Yeah, when this one came along so easy, it was definitely, you know what, the man upstairs knew that this was a place I was to be. Cool little tidbit to that. Well, after the fact, when the deal was done, and we had shook hands with Peter and Joyce, who owned the farm. Joyce on the side was talking to Krista, and she said, you know what, Peter had a dream years ago that one day Richard Carr would buy his farm. So when we heard that, it was like, hey, you know what, this is all meant to be here. Confirmation that this is, we're supposed to be right here. Yeah. So okay, now we own the farm. Now we have 160 acres of pasture land, 160 acres of the home quarter, and it's time for more cows. So then we brought our 50 cows and we went up to 100 cows. And then, okay, now we're full with that. And all of a sudden, okay, we want to grow again. We bought some more land. We bought 2 more core sections of pasture land and more cows. We went from 100 to 200.
Well, that was because we were doing bred heifers the one year, and then we didn't end up selling them. We ended up keeping them.
Yeah, we were trying to...
And we calved them all out.
Yeah, we were trying a new venture and trying to bring in heifers, get them bred and resell them. That was a hot little market for a few years. And then the spring we bought them, it looked like, man, that fall is going to be just dynamite for bred heifers. And then it dried up. There wasn't much feed available. No one wanted to expand. And, well, I've got all these heifers. What are we going to do? I'm not going to give them away. Okay, went back to the bank. We took our breeder loan, flipped it into a bred cow loan, and we have all these heifers. So 100 cows. We're going to calve 100 cows and 100 heifers. I'm working a full-time job. Kristen's pregnant with twins. Oh boy, we're busy. I decided to leave my full-time job of 12 years at the dairy, and I'm going to come home and farm full-time. So I did it. I left my job there, got home, and that calving season was one that is etched in my brain that I'll never ever forget, because wow, I worked so hard for 2.5 months. I think I must have lost 40 or 50 pounds. It was crazy. It was exciting. It was nerve-wracking. It was terrifying. It was frustrating. It was fun. It was every emotion you could ever think of wrapped up into one thing. But we were farming for ourselves. We raised pasture poultry. So we had the chicken tractors. We did 1,000 broilers every summer in 3 batches. And then we also bought a small herd of Berkshire pigs, and we're doing that. And it was just very, very busy. You know, the pigs and the chickens were a very small portion of the farm, but took up a lot of time because it was all hand labor. Just the chickens had to move them all the time. The pigs, it was pail feeding, pail watering, very labor intensive. But you know what? The people wanted the product and it was going well.
The chickens actually did really well, but they were definitely labor intensive.
They were labor intensive.
Because you had to, at the end, move them twice a day.
And so we're doing all these things, and but it's just not bringing enough income. It's just ends meet's getting hard to do. So I decided to go back to work, but changed my line of work. I need a job that's going to allow me to keep farming, be flexible. You know, a job where it's not where I'm busy, it's not busy. So I just got a job as a feed salesman for a feed company, and I did that for 3 years. And that was something that was very eye-opening to me. It was basically seeing your industry from the other side. Got to meet so many cool people. Traveled Western Canada down to the US, lots of training, visiting so many farms. That was the coolest part, is visiting so many farms and meeting some really good people and some really good operations, and learning what works well and what doesn't work well. And I did that, and towards the end of my feed selling career, I was starting to get a little bit tired of some of it. In the back of my mind, man, I still want to go back and farm at home full time. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? Well, dairy was always been in my background, always been a passion of mine. I grew up on a dairy farm. My parents sold the farm when I was 13, but worked on several dairy farms all the way through school. After school, went to work in a dairy farm in Alberta, and then I got a job working at the local dairy, which I worked at for 12 years. And dairy was my thing. But then the beef cows came along, I learned to love that too. So now we have beef cows, but I still want to dairy. But that just seemed like, how are we going to do that? I mean, dairy farming in Canada with supply and management system is the best system going, for sure. But it's one where it's a little bit hard to get into. It takes a lot of money to get into it. To purchase the quota, it takes a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So it seems impossible, but what Manitoba offers, and many provinces in Canada offer this, we have what's called a new entrant program. So this is a program designed to help people get into the dairy industry. The program has evolved over the years. The very first program we actually looked into years back.
Well, back when we were on that rented farm, we thought about, because it was an old dairy farm.
It had old barns there. We looked into it, but it was one where it was very minimal amounts of quota. It didn't pencil out. That we didn't. But then we were talking with our banker, and he said, you know what, you're a dairy guy at heart. Would you consider looking at the dairy new entrant program again? He said it's changed a lot since you kind of looked at it years and years ago. Give it some thought. So we kind of looked over it. Okay, this is going to work. We could do this. What would we do? Well, we would take what we own in land. At the time, we owned a section of land, 640 acres. We're going to sell 3/4 of that. And
part that's separate from the farm.
Yeah, separate from the farm. We could downsize the herd and sell the cows. That would pay off those debts and then have some cash to plug into the dairy for startup. Okay, this could happen. You have to put in an application. They try and whittle it down to 5, then make it to the actual interview process. The interview was intense because there's a lot of financial questions. Been a lot of hard-hitting questions like, hey, now you're going to do a dairy farm, and dairying is a 24/7, 365 industry. How are you going to do that when you have 4 young kids? You know, questions like that. How are you going to manage it all? And yeah, so we answered every question the best we could, and we got a phone call a few weeks later to say, hey, congratulations, you got in. Right on, we got in. We got officially announced that year at the Dairy Farms of Manitoba AGM. We got to go there, and we sat down with a few different builders. Ended up going with our local De La Valle dealer, TriStar, Cliff Backs. If you ever watch this, Cliff Backs, thank you very much for all your help with that. Sat down and said, okay, this is the amount of money I have, very minimal. How the heck do we start a dairy farm? He kind of scratched his head for about 2 seconds, said, okay, I got ideas, and here's the barn that we have today. It all came out of that meeting.
Yeah, it was very much try and make something efficient and cost effective.
Yeah.
That was the main.
And simple. Design a barn that one person can run on their own.
Yeah.
Right now, we see us do chores. There's always 2 of us there because we're milking extra cows. But when we're down to just milking our herd, one person can do the chores very efficiently, very easily. If you buy up to 30 kgs, the milk board will also match that with another 30 kgs. So we can start with 60 kilograms of quota, 30 owned by ourselves, and 30 still belonging to the Dairy Farms of Manitoba. Of those 30, 20 of those kgs will stick with us for life. And there's another 10 kgs in there that are called incentive kgs, which we have to meet some requirements. We could produce and have the cash flow of 60 kgs without purchasing 60, only buying 30. And it's a really, really good program. Without that program, we couldn't have started dairying. One thing for you guys, my viewers, I have my regular guys that comment. Thank you guys, I love that. You comment all the time. But just quickly comment below where you're watching from. I'd love to know where our viewers are watching from. So for those viewers outside of Canada that are kind of wondering, what's this supply management that this guy's talking about? What the heck is that? Milk being such a perishable commodity, if it's overproduced and there's no market for it, you know, you can make cheese or you can skim it or you can put it into products, but raw milk on its own has a very short shelf life, will expire. So as the Canadian system works, we want to produce enough milk to meet our needs, no more, no less. We want to have a steady supply year-round. So we have supply management. Other countries have had supply management and it's gone away. Australia is one. There's a lot of supply management naysayers that say the system doesn't work, that it's unfair, that consumers pay more for their dairy products under a supply managed system. I'm going to call BS on that one. I've looked at other countries that supply management went away. The store prices on the dairy products didn't change. Just the processors maybe made more money.
Well, at the end of the day, the price in the store is set by the store.
It is. It really is.
It's not set by the farmers.
So this way with our supply management is our milk. I've always got a market for our milk. We don't have to go out and source a plant to take our milk. That's all handled through the Dairy Farms of Manitoba.
Same with the transportation. Like
the transportation is all taken care of. We pay for that. But that's all, like, I never have to worry about where's my milk going to go. We always have a place for our milk to go. And the price is very, very consistent. We get slight fluctuations throughout the year, but that's what's always been attractive to us about dairy, is that we can budget from now till a year out and, you know, be fairly close. Inputs might rise and fall, but, you know, the income part is going to be fairly level to what we think it's going to be. And that's attractive. Being able to budget is very, very key. With the beef, it was always hard because we'd have our budgets and, okay, this is what calf prices have been historically. maybe planning ahead. This is where we think calf prices will be in a year from now or 9 months from now. And more often than not, we got to that time period and the price wasn't what we wanted. There was a few years where the price was higher, and those were the good years.
Not many though.
But there's very few of those. Your allotted quota, what you're allowed to fill, you want to always try and be right on 100%. There are months where you're not. And as a whole system, when people can't fill their quota, like I said, you build a credit for yourself that you can fill at a later date. If that looks like it's not going to happen for you and you're not going to be able to fill those credits you've accumulated, you can sell those on an exchange that other farmers can buy, which we've done that. We've bought credits where we have a surplus of milk. But all that milk comes back to one big pot where this is how much milk the province of Manitoba can ship. We want to ship that much, and that's how it's all managed. Yep. So there's a monthly exchange held for quota. So if you're a farmer that wants to expand, you have to put your bid in to buy quota on the monthly exchange. Same place if you're selling quota, you put your out there and you set your price what you want to sell it at. And that's been one thing that since we got in, the price of quota has risen dramatically. So it helps the balance
net worth.
The net worth of the farm looks really good, and the quota prices go high.
But not to buy it.
Not to buy it. So currently, where quota is at, we would like to buy a little bit more, but where the price sits today, it's not in our price window. So we'll wait on that. You want to make sure you have enough cows calving every month. If you're having 5 cows to be dried off a month, you want to have 5 cows coming in to replace that. You always want to keep your quota filled. You don't want to have like a system what would be in Australia or New Zealand, where there's the dairies there. Some dairies have calving seasons. That wouldn't work for us here because we'd have 3 months or 2 months of a dry season. We'd have no milk. That wouldn't work. We need to have year-round constant supply.
I thought we would see some horse and buggies. We're in Amish country.
We're getting up into Amish country here. Oh, they just named a sign, horse and buggy sign here.
Yeah, next 8 kilometers, maybe we'll see some.
So that's how we got our start in dairy farming through the New Entrant program. So now our 3-year anniversary is coming up. August 1st, it will be our 3-year anniversary. And it has been a 3 years, folks, let me tell you. Just steeper learning curve for me now. Like I said, I grew up on a dairy farm, worked on a dairy farm for many, many years. But now flipping over to being the employee to the owner and seeing the backside of it, it's different. And we talked to my grandparents when they started farming. Back then when they started farming, you could basically go to the bank with a bucket of sweat and say, look, this is how hard I work. I sweat my butt off. I'm a hard worker. Give me money. Okay, there you go. This man works hard. Here's some money. Go start your farm. These days, you need a good work ethic to be in farming. But you also need to be very financially astute. I tell a lot of young guys that have talked to me over the years that want to get into farming, how do they do it? How did I do it? And I tell them, if you love doing chores and you love the farm work and you're really good at that side, maybe go work for somebody. Go work for a farmer. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. There are some excellent career opportunities for young people to go work on farms. The ag industry is very diverse. There's lots of different ways you could do that. But if you want to be a farm owner and that's how you feel led, you better be damn good with a notepad, a pencil, and a calculator. Because that's really what it takes.
And a computer for today.
And a computer, sorry. Yes. But you know what? You have to be very financially astute these days. That's half the battle here. And I will admit that's my biggest downfall is I'm not as in tune to that. So thank the Lord that I married this beautiful lady here, and she is very good at that part of the farm. So yeah, I handle more of the day-to-day and the farm stuff. Chris handles the finance stuff, and that's how it has to work. You have to have that team where you have to balance off both sides. Because without that side, we couldn't. We need to have that, be on top of the books, budgeting, all that stuff is so incredibly important.
We're totally in Amish country. All these houses are Amish.
Yeah, they all are Amish. So yeah, we're just touring around here. We are just north of Gladstone, Manitoba, and that corn there, folks, is done. It's some of it's about 2 feet tall. It's all shriveled up. Bottom leaves are all browned off already. There's some stuff that's probably looking around at 3-4 feet tall, tasseled. We'll never make cob at this point, but yeah, it's very sandy land around here, kind of similar to the land to what we are at home, very sandy, but just have not had the rain. And you can see some pasture here too. Pastures are all browned off. There's quite a few spots where guys are already starting to feed their beef cattle. So yeah, it's a tough situation. All right, so quick little road trip. We're heading back. We stopped there at 3 friends, 3 young entrant farms or new entrant farms, and all 3 farms said the same thing. They just didn't feel comfortable being on camera, which I completely respect. But a big thank you to Travis and Amy, to Tom, and to Mark for letting us come visit you guys and see your herds. These guys we follow up through social media stuff, and we kind of know each other kind of pretty well through that, but it's really good just to connect in person, especially after some pandemic stuff here. It's just good to get back out there and see people. And you know, all 4 of us all have a very common thread, especially being new entrants, but just the way we farm, a bit of our farming philosophies all jived really well, and it was really good to see and visit with them, and just bounce ideas off each other and see what works for them and what doesn't work for them, and what their struggles have been and what their triumphs have been, and just sharing that. And it's just so ironic that, you know, Krista and I get so little time away from the farm, and we spend our time away from the farm visiting other farmers. Only farmers do that kind of stuff. But then again, a lot of you viewers are farmers, and you spend your few spare minutes watching me farm, which is cool because I watch a lot of guys farm too on YouTube, so that's just a bit of our culture and what we do. But yeah, just kind of in wrapping up here, it's been a good quick little trip. Stayed at a beautiful little B&B in Minnedosa, the Kirk Castle. It was very nice. If you're ever in the Minnedosa area and need a place to rest your head, I would recommend there. And yeah, go pick up our kids now. Hopefully I haven't burnt my dad's house down, but yeah, good to get away, good to get back. Look forward to seeing my cows tomorrow morning. But I guess just in wrap up, it's, you know, it's good to get out there and talk to people and see what's happening in your industry, and realizing the struggles some people are having this year. It's just unbelievably dry around here. Some of the crops we've seen are just tough. And yeah, there's questions of, you know, we're not quite sure what we're going to do, but I have full confidence that people are going to figure it out, because that's just what farmers do, right? We just figure stuff out. We might have to have a year where we're not going to make any money at all, or maybe even a small loss, but you know, there's always next year. So that'll wrap it up for the video. Sorry to end on a bit of a sour note there, but thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw here, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, all those things. Share the channel. Let's grow this thing a little bit, and we'll see you next time.